They grew up without the incredible privilege that we enjoy of public education, but still somehow understood its importance and appreciated its value. From the grips of poverty, they fled to a land of unimagined opportunity called America. They chose to come here, to California, not because of its climate or beauty, although I'm sure it was at least part of the decision, but because they knew it was here, on our country's Gold Coast, that they could provide the best life for me and my 3 siblings. Simply put, they came to pursue the American and California dream. Here they took full advantage of the educational opportunities that were available to them. My father went to community college in Compton while working a series of odd jobs to help make ends meet, and my mother went to trade school for nursing. Eventually establishing themselves as medical professionals, it was the stories of their adventures at the hospitals where they worked that sparked my imagination and inspired me to be of service to others. We lived modestly, but thanks to their hard work, we never wanted. We lived happily and comfortably because we had each other, and that was all we ever needed. Then the recession came. My parents lost their jobs and my dad lost his retirement savings. Times got tough, like they did for millions of Americans. But my parents never gave up on the promise of education as a fast track to the American dream. I began my educational journey as a Head Start kid, and it was those first teachers in pre-K. That's right. And it was those first teachers in pre-K who saw potential in me and my classmates. They believed that our socioeconomic status should not be a predictor of future success, and worked to nurture and develop our skills and talents, which the world might have otherwise never known. As the economy recovered, my parents found work again. With 5 jobs between them, they made sure that every year we had books, supplies, and a new pair of shoes at the start of each school year. Today, because of their hard work and sacrifice, as well as that great American system of public education, my brother is a psychobiology graduate from UCLA. My younger brother is a biology student at UC Berkeley. My sister is beginning her college admissions journey, and I'm a student at Yale University, majoring in ethics, politics, and economics. If that doesn't say something about the power of equitable education, I don't know what does. But we meet at a dark time for the state of education in our country. In schools across our land, lies are being taught about our shared history, while the truth about our shared humanity with our LGBTQ+ friends is being banned in books and in classrooms. Our teachers, many of whom have just come out from 3 years of the worst working conditions of their careers, and to this day remain grossly undercompensated for all they do, are being criminalized in their own classrooms for doing their jobs and teaching our kids. Meanwhile, in the nation's capital, the Supreme Court has ruled against student borrowers by preventing the forgiveness of $400 billion in unjust and crippling student loan debt. It has ruled against students of color by ending the practice of affirmative action while leaving in place affirmative action for the rich in the form of legacy admissions at elite colleges and universities. And it has ruled against you by making the path to higher education harder for many of the students you teach, erecting more barriers to financial freedom for the families of many of your former students, and making the future more bleak for students you have yet to meet. All while the Congress continues to undercut teachers by feigning support for parental rights, driving the national shortage of teachers as disheartened educators leave the profession, and we struggle to find new ones to take their place. Indeed, it is a dark time for the state of education. So at a time when the truth is treated so casually by those in power, and lies are spread by those who have been given the public trust, let us speak truth here today. Educators are the lifeblood of our democracy, and our schools, it's beating hard. The lessons they teach us course through our veins, sustain us, and heal us, while ensuring the vitality of our body politic. Without them, not only are we unable to make informed decisions and participate fully in civic life, but we're left more exposed to the threats of authoritarianism, demagoguery, and the erosion of democratic norms, rendering our project in self-government untenable. And throughout history, in moments of backlash against change, progress, and efforts to expand our moral circle, when the forces of nativism, isolationism, protectionism, and yes, racism rear their ugly heads as they do from time to time in our land, and the politics of fear consumes us, educators are the ones to show us the way forward. They push us to build that more perfect union and move toward the pluralist, tolerant, and free society we know we can be. So when those darker forces come barging at our golden gate, we say, not in our schools, not in our classrooms, and not for our kids, because we're all in for equity. In our schools, we center equity. In our classrooms, we teach the truth. And for our kids, only the best possible education, which we know to be the great equalizer and the single most important investment we can make in the future of our country and the future of the world. In our schools and classrooms, we follow the examples of teachers like Ted Hollister at Woodrow Wilson High School, home of the Aaron Gruhl and Freedom Rider story, which, quick side note, if you haven't read the book or seen the movie, I highly recommend both. I think Hilary Swank was robbed of an Oscar that year, but that's just me. Ted saw firsthand the effect homelessness and poverty were having on his students and their ability to learn effectively, so he decided to act, creating a school-wide initiative starting with 20 teachers who volunteered a portion of their paychecks to provide food security, personal hygiene resources, and equitable access to school events to low-income students. It was called More for Students, and it began as a small operation, giving away a few snacks, a few care packages, and a few tickets to prom to students who needed it. Today, More for Students has collected almost $100,000 and expanded their services to include tutoring, grocery store gift cards, holiday meals for students who depend on school for nutrition, bus passes, and school clothes, all to lighten the burden on families in need. The program has no plans of slowing down as they find more ways to meet student needs and improve learning, because Ted's definition of equity understands that sometimes all the student needs is a hand up and not a handout, and don't we all? In our schools and classrooms, we follow the example of folks like high school campus security officer Beatrice Nieves down in Long Beach, who sees the whole student when dealing with at-risk youth. She sees beyond the behavioral issues, spotty attendance, and frequent fighting, and goes above and beyond and takes a holistic approach when dealing with the students she calls her kids, going above and beyond to provide equitable wraparound services to turn those at-risk youth into thriving adults. Beatrice grew up in many of the same conditions these students did, and connects them with mentorship, counseling, and mental health resources because she refuses to give up on the students society counts out. Today, after the learning loss and neglected needs many of our students experienced during COVID, Beatrice's work is harder than ever, but her definition of equity is rooted in empathy and an unyielding faith in the power of what people can become. In our schools and classrooms, friends, we follow the example of author, journalist, and education reporter Claudia Melendez, right here on the Central Coast. Who took it upon herself to create a nonprofit news and journalism education organization called Voices of Monterey Bay. She saw the need for news in her community increase, even as newspapers like the Salinas Californian and others closed or failed to adequately cover the stories from the Valley and non-coastal communities. She recognized that far too many students at schools across our region had inequitable access to the same kinds of news education she and many of us received without school newspapers. I remember one of the first teachers who really helped hone my skills as a writer was my high school journalism teacher, Ms. Combs. Claudia and her team of veteran journalists created Voices to help give students that education, empower them to be the voices of the communities that they represent, and open their eyes to the career possibilities across sectors that start with the skills she's giving these students outside the traditional classroom. Today, the students' voices as taught, including me, attend UC's elite and Ivy Plus institutions, but the work goes on. The cause continues and will never cease until every student in our region has the same access to those opportunities and the confidence that they inspire. Today, the students, to achieve that end rather, Voices has partnered with the Monterey County Office of Education to recruit more and more students and tell more and more stories, because Claudia's definition of equity is inclusive and does not leave anyone behind. But Claudia can't do it alone. As we speak, Voices is working to create an endowment to make its mission financially sustainable and ensure it stays around for future generations, as the need for news and information grows more crucial in our ever-changing world. We're looking to raise just enough to offer stipends to writers and hire a full-time business director as Claudia works full-time, and right after my remarks, I'll be boarding a flight to continue being a full-time student. I believe we can do it and continue to offer this important service to the students of our community because, like you, we're all in for equity too. These educators are the model of what successful education can do for our students. Done right, education really can be our magic bullet, the antidote to all our societal ills. Now more than ever, we need educators who facilitate learning rather than preventing it. Educators who turn our eyes to the future rather than perpetuating the worst parts of our past. And educators who inspire the best in us while empowering us to be our truest selves rather than discouraging us and asking us to suppress our identities. And when they do that, when educators are free to actually educate, free from government interference or partisan political games, they become something so much more than just teachers and administrators, librarians and nurses, campus security officers and counselors, social workers and school psychologists. You become warriors. And like the happy warrior of the poet's words, whose high endeavors are an inward light that makes the path before them always bright, and therefore does not stoop nor lie in wait for wealth or honors or for worldly state, we happy few are equal to the task at hand. I know we talk an awful lot about the unprecedented nature of the times in which we live, but never before has democracy's flame been so dimmed. Never before have we come this close to the brink, this close to losing that special spark that has made this country what it is for the last 2 centuries. But I'm here to say to you today that that fire has not been extinguished, because it is you, the educators of our country, who are the keepers of that flame. You are the last best hope. You are the last best hope for our great experiment in democracy. Each day you go into work, impart your knowledge on your students, have an impact on their lives, connect with them, and believe in them. You fan that flame, and the light from that fire will truly see us through these testing times. So let us go forth, more secure in the power of our purpose, continuing the good work, remembering what Jefferson said about enlightening the people generally, that when we do that, tyranny and oppressions of the body and mind will vanish like evil spirits at the dawn of day. And friends, I can see the sun rising again. Thank you.